Today we're going over creating custom pieces like this for your Warhammer minis. Welcome back to Guys Night Gaming, where we play games and build things. This week I needed to solve a problem. So a Pox Walker I'm using for a Warhammer project was missing a hand. I don't know what happened to it, I probably chopped it off at some point. Anyway, I needed a new one. So, like the complicated person I am, I decided I would sculpt a new one using 3D software called Blender. Rather than using another hand from a different Pox Walker that I have to look the same as all the other hands. The other reason that I wanted to make my own hand for this Pox Walker is because this is a custom designed project and I wanted to keep it unique, to keep these pieces for the build coming out of my imagination. So Blender was a perfect tool to be able to do that. Now, this is part of a larger project and I wanted to save the details for another video on that entire project. But my Pox Walker is basically, he's having a bad day and I wanted his hand to be gripping his attacker in a specific way. And with Blender I'm able to do that here. Just to catch you up, if you don't know what Blender is, if you haven't heard of it, Blender is a free to use open source 3D software. It's been on the market for a very long time. The software has evolved a massive amount in the last decade to include the entire pipeline needed for full-on 3D animation. So like the stuff you see in Disney movies and stuff like that. And they even have now, and they've had it for a bit, but they're really refining it, a 2D animation system called Grease Pencil, which I'm a big fan of. And Blender has always been my software of choice when I'm building custom pieces to 3D print for different things, whether it's terrain or miniature builds. So to start this build, I know that it's a left hand, and I'm also going to pull up some Pox Walker hand reference images, just so I can kind of get the same feel and look with this custom hand. And what we're going to do is, so I start this build off by opening up a previous project, and I will create a basic shape in a cube, and then I'll break that cube down into multiple sections in edit mode so I can pull fingers out of it. And then what I'll do is I will adjust the position of those fingers in these basic shapes to give me a better vantage point when I start to sculpt. And in hindsight, I could have moved them even more to make the work less during the sculpt, but hindsight is always 20/20. But that is the basic steps to get things started, to have this very blocky looking shape. And then what we do is we refine that more to be able to sculpt it. So when I refine it, you'll see the edges of this blocky hand go into smooth round edges like this. So now what that does is it creates a denser mesh on the object and allows me to sculpt in details like fingernails, knuckles, veins on the back of the hands, the muscly palm, stuff like that. I even create a webbed finger effect on the pinky and the middle finger there, and I'll just go through some of that here with some music in the background so you can kind of see what's going on. For this specific piece, you might think it's super hard to make it the right size. Well, you're right if you don't use a reference. That's why I use other prints as a reference for size. So I recently printed a character, Sir Bronco, for the tabletop RPG Traveler that I'm playing. And I'm able to take that physical model that I've already printed and match his hand to both the digital version and my Pox Walker hand, where the empty space would be, where his hand is missing. I'm able to match the physical models together and then take the digital forms and match those together to make the size match. And that'll make it work for my 40k design. This gets me a close approximation, and I'm able to adjust up or down from there inside the slicer. I'm able to do this within my slicer by just scaling the hand up and down, and after going through multiple iterations, I found that at about a 30% downscale from the original size is the size that I wanted for my piece. For me to get it into the slicer, when I've got the hand to where I like it, I can export the file out as an STL and bring it into the slicer. I use Chitubox, and then I can print away as many as I'd like. After removing the supports and cleaning these tiny hands, we can test out the sizes. Like I said, out of all the sizes, the 30% downscale I think looks the best. I realize this task may not be for the normal Warhammer hobbyist, but if you want to create unique Warhammer figures of your own to show off to your friends, then learning some of the basic things within Blender can take you a long way. There are a ton of tutorials out there, and once you learn, it's like riding a bike. You're never going to forget. I also want to stress that sculpting custom pieces in 3D software programs is not the only way to make your pieces customized. You can use things like milliput, green stuff, those common things. You can even use junk around your house. They're your minis. Make them how you want. Of course, they're pretty sweet as is. Well, that's it for this week. Subscribe, like, and share. If you have any questions about Blender, or if you've ever done your own 3D sculpts for Warhammer or anything else, let me know down in the comments. I'd like to hear about it. I hope you learned something today. I hope you play something. And I will see you next time. Bye!